A violent May Day in parts of Europe and Asia as workers fight for their rights. The U.S. president will head to the Gulf of Mexico to assess operations to contain a giant oil spill. The leak is said to be 5 times faster than previously thought. Has despair driven a Chinese farmer to attack school children with a hammer? His family tells his side of the story, even as the government acts to prevent such future attacks. Good Saturday evening, everyone. I'm Timothy Go. This is what's happening right now. Violence erupting in Greece as workers there mark May Day amidst a severe national debt crisis. Some 15,000 people joined in the rallies against planned austerity measures for the country. Police have also made several arrests. Elsewhere in Europe and even here in Asia, the May Day rallies turned ugly. Anger spills out onto the streets of Athens as workers vent their frustrations during the May Day rallies. They're upset by the fact that their government is considering imposing austerity measures in a bid to win a rescue package from its European partners and the IMF.
Σήμερα υπάρχει αγώνας, ανάγκη να βγούμε στους δρόμους και να συγκρουστούμε με αυτή την πολιτική που ζητάει από τους εργαζόμενους να θυσιάσουν τα δικαιώματά τους υπέρ του κέρδους, υπέρ του κεφαλαίου.
The protesters say the harsh measures include higher taxes and lower pension will hurt the poor badly. Instead, they want those responsible for the crisis, including corrupt officials, to be punished. One policeman became the unfortunate target of their anger, as he was set on fire after a Molotov cocktail was thrown at the police. Trouble, too, across other parts of Europe. For Germany, trouble started on the eve of May Day in the city of Hamburg. 9 were arrested on Friday night after protesters lit a bonfire on the street. Hamburg police said 17 officers were injured in clashes with demonstrators who threw stones and set rubbish bins ablaze. Police clashed with protesters as well in Berlin after they sat on the ground to block streets and tram lines. But not everyone is marching for equal working rights. Thousands of Turkish workers marched on Istanbul's Taksim Square to mark the first May Day since dozens died in a May gathering more than 30 years ago. The culprits were never found. But the government eventually caved in to demands of labor unions to fully open the square for commemorations since 1977. Russians took to the streets of central Moscow for a different matter, however. Members of trade unions and supporters of Russian political parties marched to mark May Day in a day widely thought to show how united the state is. Well, rallies across Asia as well as labor groups demand better working conditions and pay. Now, what you're looking at is the scene in Macau today. Hundreds of May Day protesters clashed with riot police. Their violence erupted after they tried to force their way through barricades. They wanted to march along a main road where major tourist attractions are. Authorities responded with water cannons and pepper spray. Meanwhile, in Taiwan, thousands of people took to the streets to protest against a planned trade pact with China. They fear the agreement will threaten the island's workforce. Thousands of Indonesians also march in Jakarta. They are demanding better social security for workers. Police deployed some 15,000 personnel there to keep the peace. And in Hong Kong, 2 rallies this May Day over minimum wage.
The divide between the rich and poor in Hong Kong is getting worse. According to one trade union, the rich-poor gap is twice as big today when compared to 1997, when Hong Kong returned to Chinese rule. Ms. Law and her husband works more than 12 hours a day to take home about $2,000 a month and raises 2 children. She's hoping for better pay and hours.
點解出嚟參加遊行呢？就係我覺得即係中式飲食嗰啲洗碗啊、賣點心啊，甚至就樓面呢個時薪真係好低，即係得20幾蚊即係洗碗嘅20蚊個鐘，做點心嘅20蚊都冇，即係做一個月都4000零蚊。咁你話4000零蚊叫佢點養家呢？真係好乜嘢？嗱，你想賺多啲，老實同你講，你唔想賺4000零蚊嘅，你賺多啲嘅呢，你就做長啲時間啦咁。因為而家酒樓業呢，普遍呢得12個鐘嘅。
The catering industry says its members can't afford to pay more than $3 an hour or 24 Hong Kong dollars. Unionists, however, aren't backing down from their calls of a minimum wage of about $4 or 33 Hong Kong dollars, which they say translates to slightly above what a family of two would receive on welfare.
最低工資33蚊嘅水平呢，我哋係根據基本喺香港呢個物價指數嘅社會，如果要生活、要生存嘅話，最基本嘅需要嚟㗎。因為好多打工仔女出嚟工作，每日做10個鐘、12個鐘咁長工時，連養家都唔能夠嘅時候呢，呢個對於香港嚟講係一個恥辱嚟㗎。
The minimum wage proposals has been more than 10 years in the making here in Hong Kong. And as the public consultation closes this coming Monday, protesters here feel that it might be their last chance to get their voices heard. Labour Secretary Matthew Cheung responded Saturday by saying that the government hopes to have the minimum wage legislation passed by the summer, but won't be recommending a compulsory annual wage review in order to allow flexibility for any adjustment. Roland Lim, Channel News Asia in Hong Kong.
A White House official confirmed the U.S. President Barack Obama will travel to the Gulf of Mexico tomorrow morning, where a ruptured deepwater well has spilled millions of liters of oil into the water. The spill threatening to become one of the worst environmental disasters in U.S. history. And the Obama administration has been putting pressure on energy giant BP, which owns the damaged well, to do more to contain the spreading slick.
This could become America's worst environmental disaster in decades. 65 kilometers off the southeastern United States, almost 800,000 liters of oil is spewing from a well operated by BP. The oil well exploded in flames on April 20th, sinking 2 days later off the Louisiana coast. More than 100 workers escaped, but 11 are still missing and presumed dead. 6 remotely operated vehicles have been deployed to shut off an underwater valve, but no luck so far.
We're in what we call a lose-lose situation. None of the options they're looking at are great. There really is no good way to handle this type of a spill, which is why we shouldn't have been drilling there in the first place. The technologies they're looking at, a lot of them are in experimental mode. They may work, they may not.
Already, U.S. President Barack Obama has singled out BP for blame.
BP is ultimately responsible under the law for paying the costs of response and cleanup operations. But we are fully prepared to meet our responsibilities to any and all affected communities.
But critics say the U.S. government had opportunities to contain the spill, but neglected to do so while it waited for a resolution.
3 weeks from now, or 3 months from now, we're going to be looking at the biggest oil spill in U.S. waters in history.
As the oil spill laps nearer to shore, neighboring states of Alabama and Mississippi have declared a state of emergency due to the imminent threat of the slick.
Coming up next, a dramatic footage of a daring rescue attempt off the Somali coast. Find out what happened. Plus, heckled by a protester on the campaign trail, that's just one of the many problems for the British Prime Minister.
Monday on Primetime Morning.
Teen pop star Justin Bieber returns with a new album. We review My World 2.0.
More help for diabetic patients suffering from heart problems. Doctors explain how they can treat the two diseases together.
Plus, an exclusive with German rock band Tokyo Hotel.
Hey, we are
Tokyo Hotel.
You can see us on Primetime Morning.
A robust debate in the House over changes to the Constitution. This will see an increase in the number of non-constituency MPs and entrench the nominated MP scheme in the House. How will this affect the political landscape in Singapore? Join Deborah Soon and her guests as they discuss the issue on Talking Point. This Sunday at 10:10 p.m. only on Channel News Asia.
China has set up a special task force to beef up school security after 3 violent campus attacks this week. 22 university and government experts will explore new ways to manage such emergencies in the nation's schools in the future. Well, the latest attack happened yesterday at a primary school in Shandong province. A man attacked and injured 5 children with a hammer before killing himself. His family has now spoken out, telling his side of the story.
A desperate cry from the widow of a desperate man. Wang Yonglai's last act in life was to set himself on fire after going on a rampage at a primary school with a homemade hammer. He didn't live to tell his side of the story, but his family says he was driven to this tragic end by extreme frustration. The attack was his way of protesting against a government threat to knock down a new house he had poured all his life savings into because it had been illegally constructed on farmland. The 45-year-old farmer's death has left his family in the lurch. Friday's attack was the 3rd such incident in China in as many days. The wave of assaults has left 8 children dead and 50 people injured. For those wounded, there are plans to ensure they get more than just physical care.
因为这一块呢，就是说这个心理辅导这一块，整个的这个也比较重视，因为这个一个突发事件，一定对孩子这个创伤还是相对来说比较大的。因为这块就是说积极的安抚一块，就是说配备了专门的这个护理的、心理辅导的来进行对他们进行指导护理。
China has for years enjoyed lower violent crime rates than the West. But the latest attacks underscore the growing threats posed by disgruntled people as the nation makes the transition to a capitalist economy.
2 explosions in the Somali capital Mogadishu killed about 30 people and injured at least 70 others. The blast rocked a mosque in a crowded market area. This is the 2nd attack this week in the area, which is dominated by members of the country's 2 main rebel groups. Some witnesses say that a senior leader of one of the groups was the target. The Dutch Royal Navy has released dramatic video footage of a daring rescue of a ship that was in the hands of pirates off the Somali coast. Now, this is no video game. It is a first-person perspective of the actual operation to retake a German merchant ship after 10 Somali pirates had boarded it. The video shows Dutch Royal Navy Marines abseiling from a helicopter onto the ship and then opening fire. They then retook the bridge of the ship and restored it to its crew. The crew were all found safe and even managed to continue their voyage to Kenya. The British Prime Minister is entering the election's last few days, and campaign is entering the final stretch, with the Prime Minister hoping of re-election taking a fresh beating this weekend. The Prime Minister was heckled by a protester during a visit to the northeast of England. He was delivering a speech to voters when a man in the audience began shouting at him. Well, pressure is mounting on Mr. Brown with polling day less than a week away. And in a further blow to the Prime Minister, the Guardian newspaper, which traditionally backs Labour, has changed its tune, giving its endorsement to the Liberal Democrats. The paper said that it's hard to feel enthusiasm for another 5 years of Mr. Brown. The Times newspaper has also switched camps, coming out in favor of the Conservatives. It says the Tories are the best bet to help Britain recover from the global financial crisis. Well, it has been shaping up as one of the most exciting general elections in the UK. Channel News Asia's Chu Wilin looks at some of the reasons that's causing this election race to go down to the wire.
This government would wreck the recovery.
There's the old saying that oppositions don't win elections. Governments lose them. But while Prime Minister Gordon Brown's Labour government faces great public dissatisfaction, the Conservatives still have to pull off the largest electoral swing since the 1930s. The election is likely to hinge on who Britons trust most to help the economy recover from the recession. And the leader of the Conservatives, David Cameron, doesn't have Mr. Brown's advantage of being a known quantity.
Now, be honest with the public, because you can't airbrush your policies, even although you can airbrush your posters.
The race tightened further with the UK's first live election TV debate.
We'll be hearing from three men.
It gave the Liberal Democrats a podium and, crucially, equal time to speak.
I'm here to persuade you that there is an alternative.
The result saw the UK's traditional third party lead some opinion polls for the first time. Still, pundits are increasingly convinced that no party will enjoy a majority. All three parties may already have been hurt by last year's expenses scandal. MPs were exposed for submitting claims for everything from pornography to chandeliers to duck houses.
She's just a soft, bigoted woman. Said she used to be Labour.
Race and immigration had not been a key issue for any of the three major parties until now. Tomorrow, we will look at Muslim voters in the UK and the issues they're concerned about. In other news tonight, tens of thousands of people cramming into the Shanghai World Expo on the first day of the multi-billion-dollar event. And despite the huge turnout, there appears to be no major hiccups. Channel News Asia's Glenda Chong reports from Shanghai.
Getting to the expo site on the first day wasn't as difficult as most had expected. Although there were roadblocks, traffic was smooth. Security was tight with policemen at every corner to guide motorists. And with many expecting jams, thousands arrived as early as 6 a.m., 3 hours before the gates were due to open. Zhang Longzhen from Suzhou was determined to be among the first to visit the exposition and bought her May 1st ticket in July last year.
早晨5点起来，6点钟从家里出发的。
那是交通情况怎么样呢？是用什么交通来？
是用自己自备车过来的。交通畅通，很好。
那刚才呢要排队啦、安长的情况呢，让我了解一下。
各方面都很安全，各方面设施都很好，很满意。
And she wasn't the only one who experienced a smooth security check.
感觉很不错，
怎么说不错呢？
很安全，而且每一项检查都比较仔细，工作人员也都非常热心，然后也都非常有礼貌什么的。
那你刚才等了多长的时间呢？
没有等多长时间，很快，速度很快，比我想象中要快得多了。
他们服务很好，我走错路，从这边进来，他们特地派一个人把我送到这边来。
这是我们中国很大的荣幸。 所以我要特地从昆山赶过来看世博。
Crowds thronged the pavilions as they opened their doors to the first batch of visitors. A record 189 countries are participating in the expo, and an estimated 70 million visitors are expected to visit over the next 6 months. Organizers say they will only allow 600,000 people at the site daily, and so far 24 million tickets have been sold. Glenda Chong, Channel News Asia, Shanghai.
Coming up next, some rare big cats take center stage in an Indian zoo. Plus, one of the ocean's biggest threats, the lionfish, becomes easy meat for conservationists. We'll tell you why.
On May 6th, Britain's vote in what's being called the tightest election in decades. Can the Conservatives overturn Labour's 13-year reign? Or will the Liberal Democrats clinch a surprise finish? Find out on a special one-hour edition of Primetime News over 2 nights. On May 10th, the race for the Philippines presidential election reaches its climax. Will it be a political prodigy taking the helm? Or will we see the return of a familiar face? Catch the results as they come in on a special edition of World Tonight, Philippine Election Special. 2 elections set to change the country's futures. One news network brings you all the action. Channel News Asia.
Oil and gas exploration has moved deep sea, a market where Otto Marine Limited is globally recognized as a specialist provider. Otto Marine builds world-class offshore support vessels with deep-sea capabilities. The company is also a ship charterer with the market's most competitive cost structure. Chartering to the oil and gas offshore and deep-sea market provides Otto Marine with its second tier of profitable business. Otto is also a majority owner of the seismic company Reflect, providing a third business segment in the specialized end-user offshore market. Otto Marine has an impressive compounded annual growth rate of 114% per annum for the past 4 years.
Tapping on our deep-sea engineering edge and competitive cost, Otto Marine will continue to grow in the very specialized, highly valued deep-sea market segment.
We will continue to expand through joint ventures where partners bring project expertise and contracts, and Otto, the cost-effective deep-sea vessels.
Otto Marine Limited, building on excellence.
They've got the looks. They get their women.
Hi, I'm Natasha.
They are great dancers.
1, 2, 3, 4.
They defy gravity. They have muscles. Whoa. And they just don't die. Look at them. Meet the heroes of Bollywood. Make a date with them. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on Bollywood Musty. Only on Vasantham. Some guys have it all.
This Sunday, hedge funds are making a big comeback after having been shunned for more than a year. What's driving the renewed interest?
Hedge funds tend to look for mispricings and inefficiencies in markets, and we see huge opportunity as a result of the global financial crisis.
We also check in with TTJ and how it's bridging 30 years of past experience into more growth into the future. Money Mind, Sunday, 9:30 p.m.
You're watching The World Tonight. 3 white tigers in India are becoming local celebrities for their unique shade of pale.
3 white tiger cubs and their mother are becoming popular attractions here in southern India. Visitors to the Indira Gandhi Zoological Park have increased since the cubs went on public display. For many, it's a rare chance to see this kind of animal up close.
This is a very amazing type. We have not seen it so far. So far, I have not seen white tiger. I've just seen the normal tigers. This is the first time I'm seeing white tiger.
White tigers get their coloring through an unusual genetic mutation, and sometimes they're bred intentionally as exotic zoo animals despite the risk of birth defects. One Indian park official said until the animals grow up, they'll remain together for the public to see. Overall, India's tiger population is in decline. Conservationists estimate the country loses about 200 to 300 tigers a year because of poaching and human development of their natural habitats.
And since we're on the topic of animals, marine conservationists are going head-to-head with one of the ocean's biggest threats, the lionfish. And they have come up with a novel way to get rid of the sea of its menace. They're trying to eat their way out of a potential environmental disaster.
The beautiful lionfish dazzles with its stripes and colors, but this seemingly harmless fish is not what it seems.
This is truly a unique invasion and may actually prove to be one of the most devastating marine invasions in history. In this invasion, this novel predator is just sweeping through the system.
Scientists believe lionfish entered the Atlantic when Hurricane Andrew cracked open a private oceanside aquarium in Miami in 1992, and 6 of them escaped. And now its population is growing unchecked because it has no natural predators in the Atlantic. Lionfish have now colonized large areas of the eastern seaboard, the Caribbean, and most recently the Gulf of Mexico, gorging themselves on smaller swimmers. And some conservationists say enough is enough.
They don't belong here, and we should just eat them all.
That's right, eat the lionfish. It's a growing movement introduced by conservationists to reduce their swelling numbers. Lionfish have poisonous spines, but chefs say once they're removed, the fillets are safe and just delicious.
Ceviche is a great way to use up a fish that you don't have a whole lot of. Real simple preparation. Just a couple of pieces of lionfish, a little bit of chili.
If raw fish is not your thing, it apparently tastes just as good seared or fried. Chefs and conservationists claim eating lionfish is not only good for the environment, it's good for you. And they hope to be able to save the ocean one fillet at a time.
A balloon artist in Hong Kong is turning his interest into a successful career, and now he wants his skill to gain new recognition as an art form.
All he needs is a pocket full of balloons, and he can make practically anything. This balloon artist in Hong Kong is living up to his name with this creation. A mighty tall rabbit created by 29-year-old Mighty Chan. The 5-meter-high balloon creation is the centerpiece at the inaugural Hong Kong Balloon Decorative Art Competition. Mr. Chan's own entry to the competition was titled Discovery of the Pearl of the Orient. It featured a panda sailing in a traditional Chinese junk on the ocean. What's particularly challenging to create in his design is the three-dimensional aspect of the panda's eyes and nose. He wants people to know there is more to what he does than just twisting a few balloons for party entertainment. He's also turning his attention to fashion. He recently created this white balloon wedding dress for a portfolio promoting his balloon business.
呢件氣球衫都好舒服嘅，着上身，但係咧就會驚佢爆咯。着嗰陣時會成個人都唔敢喐咁咯。
The dress could certainly help proceedings go off with a bang. And if you fancy one, it costs between $400 and $1,200 US.
That is our report here on The World Tonight. For all of us here, have a good weekend.
As the dry condition extends over Amritsar, we'll find the right flavor to tempt your palate. World's 5-star airline.
Heart disease is one of the leading causes of death in Singapore, but many are not aware of the dangers posed by this silent killer.
We are organizing this seminar so that the public has a chance to interact and ask the experts and clarify on some of the misconceptions on heart attack.
Join 4 health specialists as they educate you on the symptoms, causes, prevention of heart attack and treatment options available.
The important message we want to convey to the public is to recognize the symptom, to present to hospital as early as possible so that appropriate treatment may be administered to open up the blocked artery.
Stop it, survive it. Beat a heart attack. A medical seminar happening 15th May at the Suntec Convention Centre Theatre. Book your tickets now to enjoy special rates. For more details, log on to channelnewsasia.com/seminar.